All right, let us say hello once again to Britton Beltran, aka Britton Hart, who returns to action June 24th, which is a little over a week as we record right now, taking on Bec Rawlings, a rematch from a very close fight almost 4 years ago. Britton, welcome back. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And again, yeah, super looking forward to this rematch. It's definitely a long time coming.
Absolutely. And as people have seen, it has been quite the stretch for you since around Thanksgiving time because crazy fight with Pearl Gonzalez. You had the inaugural title fight with Christine Faria. You were on the wrong end of that decision. Then this fight with Bec was booked for this past month. You shared the heartbreaking news as to why that fight was postponed. But now here we are in a little over 9 days. You're going to get that rematch. So you've been through a lot in your career to actually get to where you're at already. But how would you describe these last 6 or 7 months for you specifically?
Yeah, I really feel like you're kind of saying it best. Like and sometimes I'm like, man, typical Britain stuff. Like when it's good, you think everything's great, and then something kind of reminds you that at any minute, you can lose it. You can lose that momentum, and that sometimes I think when I was at rock bottom and bad things happened to me, I was like, well, this has happened to me because I'm here. I don't have this, I don't have that. So working my way up and busting my ass over the last year, a few years to get where I'm at and then lose the title and then have this, the joy of, hey, me and Joey having a baby together to losing it right before his fight and missing out on this fight is like, man, like just bad things happen at any point in time. So like every day when we wake up, like just be lucky and blessed and don't get familiar with the great things because they can be gone like that. But I also think, hey, I kind of look at it like, I think you have to look at it like that. Everything happens for a reason. And destiny, like, damn, this fight was like really meant to happen. And why is that? I really think, this is why. I was on that 4-win fight streak. I lost in the title. And I think for me, it was just being like, really happy. Like nothing bad can happen to me. I work hard every day. What they say, train hard in the gym, fight's easy. The fight should have been easy for me. And, I lost and I was really, really sad. And then when, I found out I was pregnant, I kind of feel like that's where my guilt and struggle comes from. Cause I really wanted this fight. And then after losing it, it was like, man, fuck the fights. Like that was the worst losing. Like I can't even believe I'd be upset over the title or losing these future fights. Like that was actually losing. And I just think it kind of puts that like that pain in a fighter's heart. Like this is why we have to fight through that pain. And this is why we have to go out there and do what we do because not a lot of people are given this chance and to go out. I feel like every fighter has that one small broken piece in them that gives them that strength and courage to go in there and face being bare knuckle or whether they're boxing or MMA with elbows and kicks. It takes a special type of person to do that. And that's kind of why I'm looking at this situation right now and going into this fight. I'm not even really looking at it as a rematch per se. I'm looking at it like I'm facing what I'm going through. I'm facing, like you said, the time from not even the last year because I did great until 2021 was my year, but from February till right now, I've really gone through some shit and I need to be able to know and prove it to myself and go over and go out on the 24th with the game plan, with the intelligence and composure that I have the skills, the heart, the hard work and talent to beat anyone and to be the best and make that climb again.
One thing I forgot to mention, because you mentioned Joey in his last fight, there were reports that came out that he nearly choked to death like right before. Were you there for that?
Yeah, I was. I was there, and there's definitely crazy stories about it. But it's kind of funny. So I guess I'll tell you the short condensed story. My coach was showing him something funny, or his coach was showing him something, and he laughed. And when you like have food in your mouth, it goes down the wrong tube,
Yeah.
and you start coughing, right? And sometimes you get panicked because your air is not coming out the right way. Well, anyways, they're like, he's choking, Britt. He's choking. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's talking. He's fine. You know, if you can talk, you're not choking. You can cough, you're not choking. He'll cough it out. And then finally, they're like, no, he's like, I can't breathe. And he gets up and Feldman pushes me out of the way and starts doing the Heimlich maneuver on him. Something does come out of his mouth. So I'm like, oh, great. That didn't look good. So they're all like looking at me like, wow, Brittany, you're not going to save your husband's life. Like, what's wrong with you? And so I'm like, he really wasn't choking. But I think it was getting to that point. I think Feldman did the right thing, stepping in and just going ahead and tackling the situation. But now every time Joey chokes, I'm like, oh, I get behind him. I'm like, I need my chance at redemption that I'll save you if you're choking. But he's fine. But I'm sure it was scary. There's a lot of times when, you're drinking and it goes down the wrong tube, like in the middle of a conversation, you have to excuse yourself and you feel like you're dying, So it could happen.
Yeah, when the Britton Beltran biography comes out, there's going to be a lot of fun, crazy stories, I'm sure. But going back to November, the Pearl Gonzalez fight, because the last time I spoke to you was right before that fight. It was a couple days before. I think you were walking to the press conference, and there was a lot of heat on that one. And the fight was a banger. It delivered. It was really entertaining and fun. You get the nod via decision. Were you happy with that performance? I mean, you said you capped off a big year with that one. Was there a thought that maybe the judges wouldn't score it for you? Because Twitter was kind of all over the place. I scored it for you personally, but what did you make of those 5 rounds?
Yeah, so I thought, I won hands down. Now, the first round was a little tricky. I will say that. When I went in there, it was kind of funny because after, I had already kind of like dug my hole and saying she's an easy fight. And, she's just a grappler. She's MMA and she's OnlyFans. She's not worried about shit. And then I hear these interviews and she actually won Golden Gloves. So she knows how to box. And she's like on these training camps with like John Jones and blah, blah, blah. And she's been training for me specifically for like 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, whoa, I only got 3 weeks notice on this fight. So I was thinking me and her were, in the same boat. 3 weeks notice, 3 weeks notice. We'll see who the best woman's going to win, So I was kind of like, a little shaken by that. Obviously, there was some personal drama, and I don't like her at all. And so after the first round, it was like she was like a lot stronger than I thought. And I was like, fuck. And I went over the first, and I remember my coach being like, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And I zoned out, and I was like, there's no way I can let this girl beat me. No way. And then that's when it changed for me. With the second round, boom, got it. Third round, boom, got it. Fourth round, well, the third round at the very end, you could see, she cut me, which is, if you watch that replay of the cut, it was like a lucky thing for her. It wasn't a boom, like a katoosh. It was just like, I feel like her knuckle grazed me when I was in my flurry, and she just kind of grazed me and got one shot off. I didn't stop the pressure. I didn't move away. I still was punching. So who cares if I got cut? It's bare knuckle, in my opinion. Any punch can cut, in my opinion. And so the fourth round, I kind of took off, kind of protecting the cut. But I still think I won that round too. And the fifth round, 100%. So after the fight, I knew I won. When you go up to see, when the ref is holding us, you can see I'm already like, I won. And if you look at her face, she already knows she lost. I mean, it's in the fighter's face. Like, I'll be honest, when you win, when you lose. And a loser's face is like just, whether you want to be strong and take it like a man, take it like a woman, whatever, but that's what she's doing. You'll see it. She looks sad, like, man, I know I lost this one. And I'm like, no, number one, I can't wait to tell you I'm the best. Because in the weigh-in, she was all in my face. I'm better than you. I'm better. I'm better. And so I was like, well, I'm going to show you I'm better than better. I'm the best. And so that was my whole personal, where you saw out with the push. And, it kind of sucks for me because I think that my personal behavior overshadowed my great victory. I feel like if I would have, beat her and shook her hand and gave her a hug, I do feel like everybody would have been like, wow, great win, Britain, and she won. I do think it was my behavior at the end that kind of foreshadowed it. But when she made it personal. She took it there. And, she said some shit about my husband, which is like a no-no. You don't say that. And so all that stuff was kind of circulating. So again, the fight to me never proves and squashes the beef. An apology squashes the beef. I'm sorry I said that. The fight just proves I'm the better fighter than you. That's all that's proven. It's not squash and disrespect. So that's the way I looked at it. But when I did go home and I saw everybody saying, oh, Pearl got robbed, I did get in my feelings. And I watched that fight more than any fight of mine that I've ever watched. And I watch it over and over to be like, what are people looking at? Like, how could people think that she got robbed? Like, she clearly knows she lost. Christine, who hates me, the commentators, they clearly saw me winning. In boxing world, I mean, who cares? I don't care what world you're from. To me, it was obvious and clear as day. The only thing was that she cut me, and they're like, oh, her face looked way worse. And I'm like, there's some people, if you're in the fight world, there's some people you can flick their nose and it pours blood. And there's some people you can pound them in the nose over and over and it will never bleed. I know you know this. We've seen this time and time in fights. Like I reference Audra Cummings' fight all the time against Crystal Pittman. That girl looked like she was landing bombs on her. And Audra really didn't look that bad. Like, she was inspiration to me. Like, dude, I can go in there and get hit like that and still move. That's easy. But, Audra's just blessed that way. She didn't get cut or really nothing really that bad. And, anyways, it's just personal chemistry. I happen to be, a white female that has softer skin, apparently, that cuts easy and looks different, like Joey goes and spars and never has black eyes, never has anything. And I can get 1-2 lucky punches and have a black eye. It just happens, but I think we have to look at how they reacted to it. If she punched me and cut me and I was like, or backed out, then all right, she really hurt Britain. But if you just graze me and cut me, my skin, I get cut. I've gotten cut in boxing twice. So, it's not even bare knuckle. I'm susceptible to cuts. So it's something I have to prepare for and watch out in my career in both boxing and bare knuckle. So I think that people just took that, and the stupid stats. The stats at the end of the fight that show the punch counts, which are, that person needs to be fired. Like, whoever you are, I hope you're watching this video and you should be fired. Like, not only for my fight, because I've seen them do terrible, like, punch counts on fights that are just, and they skew your way of thinking. You're like, oh, Pearl landed 70% more shots than Britain. Even though clearly you see me beating her up the whole time, you're going to be like, oh, maybe she did win. And it's like, dude, do you guys forget to think for yourselves and actually watch the fight? So anyways, that's my whole vent on that. But no, so to answer your question, I've watched that fight so many times and I clearly won. Anyone who says that Pearl got robbed can totally kiss my ass and we can run it back any day.
You mentioned that you feel it was maybe the way you acted afterwards that had people feeling a certain way about it. Do you regret the way you acted? Because you don't strike me as someone who lives life with a lot of regrets.
I don't. I really don't. I am kind of think about it man, but to be honest with you, I wasn't trying to be like that. And I think that's where that whole nickname Ratchet came from. And I think that's where Christine really ran with that, all Britain's Ratchet and, whatever. My roots in growing up were a lot different than everybody else's. But for me, that was the final push in the round, round 5. You need to seal the deal. Who knows how the judges are going to score it? That's why when people say that she was robbed, they're fucking crazy because they wanted her to win. Nobody wants me to win. Let's just get that clear. On a high level, nobody wants me to win. I do nothing for winning besides for me, myself, and all the people that stand behind me that I represent. Other than that, promotions don't promote me. I don't have a ton of followers. I don't have OnlyFans. I'm not an actress. Nobody, I'm not famous. I'm just a normal girl doing what she loves and following her dreams. And, whoever's behind that is great. But, we don't really know how many people really are behind, because look at the last years, how it's played out for me, which I'm not complaining about. I'm happy. But that's why I go out there and do those things, is so people can see, like, this is very real for me. Like, when I'm fighting, I'm putting my everything, my heart, soul, mind out there. And so for that girl to come in the way she did in the press conference, there goes a lot into that. And then the weigh-ins. And then it wasn't even, me being mad at her, I am mad at her, so I'm not going to take that back. But it wasn't really that. It was my promotion and some other people that I feel like, they're always like, we're going to promote you. We're going to build you up. You're the best. You always fight. You're number one female. And then I go into the elevator and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get built up and promoted. And I go in the elevator and it's a little flyer and it's like Paige VanZant and, Chris Lytle and who's that? Maybe like Kendall Grove. And I'm like, these fighters don't even really fight actively in BKFC, and Paige is 0-2. Why is she the girl on your postcard that's in this event for a fight she's not even fighting at? You know what I mean? And so I think, I took it out that way against Pearl. And I'm like, all that was coming out, because I remember kind of being like blacked out a little bit. Like Feldman grabbed me and was like, Britton, calm down. And I was like, no, this is what you want, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you won. I was like, I don't give a shit that I won. I don't give a shit. That's what I told my boss. I don't give a shit. And he was like, oh my God, get out of here, And yeah, so in that point, I wish maybe I would have composed myself from after I was announced the winner on. But leading up to it, no, I wouldn't change a thing, and I think I needed that to I think I needed that passion and that realness and that rawness to beat her. Because without it, she's bigger and stronger and more prepared, and she had been training for it. So it kind of shows that if you dig deep and have that fire and passion, that you can beat people. And maybe if I was more composed and calm, I wouldn't have come out with the win,
You mentioned that you're still mad at her, and I spoke to Pearl a little over a month ago. She thought she won the fight, and she said that this rivalry is far from over, and that if you guys walked past each other on the street, you're probably going to fight each other. Do you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm glad. I would have felt bad if she was like, well, it's squash, but yeah, absolutely. And we can fight on the street. I kind of feel like, what, that is another thing. It brings me up because I think in the press conference and just her demeanor, she's kind of got that hood gangster vibe. I can't remember what her video was, but she was like, she just kind of speaks like that and comes off on that. And she was like in my DMs calling me a clown and posting some shit. And I was like, dude, if you want to see who can go fucking hard, you don't want that. You don't want those problems, because I can have switches, I can sit here and have a very organized and be professional and smile. But I'm telling you, I have a switch too. And I can drop, as many F-bombs and bitches as you can and be livid mad at a snap. And that's, you just don't want to go there, because I'm not afraid to go there if you match that energy. You know what I mean? And I feel like that was the energy she brought. And I was thinking in my head, that is the worst energy you could possibly bring to me, because I'm going to try to, it's basically like a pissing contest and whose dick is bigger. And if you want to come at me like that, I can come at you like that, but harder. And so that's kind of what it was in the fight at the end, with you see the push. And you can even see when the refs, I grabbed her and got close to her face, because that switch in my head went off. And so I feel like in the streets, if she wanted to do that, it's my famous quote. I've been saying that for years. I fight bare knuckle because I would fight in a Walmart parking lot for free. I just don't want to go to jail. It's really the only stopping point in my brain of not fighting people on the streets every day. But there are people that really test me to where 6 months in jail seemed kind of worth it to beat your ass, you know? But I it's probably not, and it's probably a terrible thing to say and mistake, but catch me on the street and say something stupid to me, you know?
You go on and fight Christine for the inaugural title at Knucklemania 2. Tough one. Started up very competitive. As the fight progressed, Christine just seemed to start to pull away a little bit and really get going. And you were tough as hell. And I think you gained a lot of respect from her and a lot of other people. But I could tell by looking at you now that you weren't happy with the performance, but I'm sure you took a lot away from that fight. What did you take away from that fight?
Yeah, so crazy. I've only watched that fight one time. You know, sometimes people like just go over and over. Like I told you with the Pearl fight, I watched it over and over. They're like, what are these people looking at? The Christine fight, I only watched one time. And I feel like, you know, I'm just not quite there yet, but I kind of think about it like, what did I do wrong? You know, I've had some messages that people are like, man, it could have gone either way. I don't know if it makes me feel better or worse, but to me, I really just think like, you know, my coaches would tell you too, and some other people, like when they were, you know, my mindset of going in there was different because now I'm playing damage control on the Pearl fight. Now, you know, Christine's trying to mentally mind fuck me by calling me ratchet, posting all these things and these memes. And so, as you can see, when I went to the press conference, I was calm and very professional and the whole experience. And that was like our motto for the fight camp: calm, cool, and collected. And I really think I went into that fight, you know, maybe too calm, too cool, and too collected. And I was like thinking, I'm just going to listen to my coaches and whatever they tell me, I'm going to do, and I'm going to rock this. Well, check this out. When my coaches got there and went behind the ring, there's all these cameramen and all these like security people blocking their view. So when they came up to tell me, and like they were like they didn't really get to see the fight. So a lot of that fight kind of goes on to like mismanagement from the outside, from the corner in those breaks. And you know, because I was like, what did I do wrong? I listened. But see, those were the directions when after the first round, the second round, they're like, go get her, go get her. You gotta go, you gotta go. And it would have been more, I think like looking back on it, that shouldn't have been the game plan with Christine. The game plan should have been, you know, move, stick, move, cut pivots, angles, you know, really not to get into a bang fest with her. But, you know, I think in my head, I remember the first round being like, oh, I got this, you know, boom, easy. And then the second round, I got cut. And that's when it shifted. And they're like, no, you got to go. You got to go. And like you saw from the Pearl fight, when I got cut, I kind of took a round off, like, all right, let's monitor this. Let's do this. With Christine, it was like no fucks given. I had 8 cuts for that fight. So obviously, you know, me listening to that was not a good idea because I was going. And then I can remember someone telling me, they're like, dude, this fight is simple. If you go forward, you win. If you go backwards, you lose. So the whole time I'm just thinking in that fight, like, I really wasn't thinking besides go forward. And it probably was stupid, you know, because boom, boom, boom. And I was just eating punches left and right because I was just thinking, if I go forward, that's all I have to do. I'm going to win. So go forward. And by that 5th round, my mouthpiece started popping out. And I was like, here we go again. So I kept trying to push my mouthpiece in. And, you know, at the end of the fight, it was like, damn, I could have hoped, you know, I was like, you know, they were like, you know, head up, you're good. You know, you never know what the judges are going to see and say. And I just remember being so disappointed in myself just because I knew what my face looked like. And I was like, I knew this rivalry with her was like very, very serious. And, you know, I just felt like empty inside for real. And I stood up there and I remember saying, I'm going to practice what I preach. And I stood there and I waited and they announced it, you know, and I didn't walk off. And I even asked Feldman, I was like, do you need me for anything else? Can I be like, you know, can I be excused? And I left and, you know, it was pretty rough. It was definitely a rough win, but a rough loss. And I think, you know, I really haven't had too much time to reflect on it. Like I said, I only can tell you from the one time I watched the fight into like reflecting and going back what I've thought. And then what other people tell me, is kind of sometimes is a little different, but at the end of the day, I really wanted that, more than anything. And I really needed that. And so that's really all I'm looking at. Like, as far as right now, I haven't really gone into like what per se technically things I did wrong or how I like felt like, going through that process. But I know a lot of people are like, oh, you need to work on power. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. And that's what I said, like, I want to have like this big epic moment where I bring the scale in the middle of the ring after I win. And I step on that bitch for all to see that I weigh 123. I walk around at 123. So I know this. I'm not making an excuse. I signed up to fight because this is what I want to do. I would love to be at 115. I wish they would put me at 115. But those aren't the cards I'm being dealt. And Christine posted on her Instagram on the day of the fight a picture of the scale, and she's 140, And so that, if I hit you with a 5-pound block and then hit you with a 25-pound block, I bet you the 25 block is going to do a lot more damage. I mean, it's science. It's not a matter of power. And I think that's just really what I'm facing, with these things. And that's what I'm thinking with Christine is that, and I think a lot of people were like, whoa, and I earned her respect that way too, which is really cool. And at least, like I said, it was funny. I walked away winning from Pearl and everyone hated me. I walked away losing from Christine, but everyone loved me. Everyone gave me, it really wasn't any bad feedback. I only remember seeing one bad comment, and it was something stupid about my hair. But other than that, everyone was like, wow, you look way more technical. I don't have a wild. I'm not being wild. I was technical. I was posed, even when I was getting obliterated, I was still there. I had a lot of the pictures I really take into consideration. I know it sounds so silly, but when I look at pictures and my hands are up, I'm like, yes. Because some pictures, they show everything. You're like, or this, or your hands are down. But a lot of the pictures, one of my hands was blocked in a defensive mode. And that shows to me that in like the worst time possible, I'm still being technically sound and that my technical skills are still leveling up and I'm still improving. Even though I lost, it was still an improvement. Christine is a tough fighter. She's a heavier, bigger fighter. I don't need to say rumors and put any like negative whatever, but regardless, that's a problem and an issue that I have to face and look for. And that's going to be with a good game plan, which would be to box, to stick, move, go out, cut angles, and not really go in and bang with someone who's 20 pounds bigger than you. So yeah, I think it would be cool to run it back, like, in a third time and really show the progression on like how important game plan is too with involving skill.
On Saturday, BKFC announced that Christine's going to have her first title defense in August against Taylor Starling, someone who less than a year, but 11 months ago, we were in the same place. You and Taylor were pretty chummy after that BKFC 19 card. Taylor had a big win. You had a big win over Jenny Savage. And it seemed like you two were up there. There was talks about maybe a tournament happening. And you were right next to each other at the press conference saying, hey, we're the fight, but you better pay us to fight because we're good buddies. And we know we're going to bring the ruckus and we're going to bring the ratings and the numbers. It seems like things have changed since then. What has changed? Has anything changed? Because you two seemed like a dynamic duo. And now, I don't know, not so much.
Yeah, it's actually pretty sad, but I mean, it is what it is. And, it kind of goes back to what I'm trying to tell everyone is like, I'm 100% real all the time. Like, and I'll say it how it is. And yeah, me and Taylor were great friends. We trained together. We did some things with the same organization. And, I remember that moment. And a lot of the times, she would post things and she's like, oh, I love this girl. She deserves the world. Super supportive. And, I think it was with actually, like I said, Pearl just ruins everything. It was with the Pearl fight that ruined me and Taylor's relationship because I don't really troll the internet. I really don't, but other people do it for me, which can sometimes be like kind of annoying, but it brings it to my attention. People just like to stir the pot and they'll be like, they send me screenshots of like Jenny Savage, Christine, and they'll be like, oh, look who said this, or look who said this. Isn't this person your friend? Look what they said. And people send this to me. It's not me scouting the internet. Well, anyways, one day someone sent me like a screenshot with Taylor and then the video. And they're like, dude, you should listen to this interview. And I'm like, I don't got time to listen to it. Just tell me the basis. And they're like, well, it was like an interview. Who do you think's going to win, Britain or Pearl? And Taylor was like, well, I know I'm probably going to get some beef about this, but I think Pearl's going to win. And that instant for me, like, it might sound petty and stupid, and I don't care if that's your opinion and think that. But for me, if we're friends and training together, that, you pull for that person. And if you don't want to say, you say, hey, I don't feel like, I don't want to answer it. The best girl's going to win. There are ways around it. I would never throw my friend under the bus. If someone was going to be like, who's going to win, Taylor, Christine, and I know Christine's going to smash Taylor, I would never say that. I'd be like, you know what? I think Taylor has the skills to work really hard and have a game plan, and anything can happen in bare knuckle. And I'd leave it like that. I would really cheer for my friend. That's the difference in being acquaintances and friends. And for me, once you cross, hey, if you don't want those problems, stay acquaintances with me. Be like, hey, Britton, I'm cheering for you. You're a great fighter, but, stay at bay. Because once we become friends, once we're eating meals together, once we're hanging out personally together, once we're training in the same gym, if you don't believe in me and think that I'm going to lose, I don't need your energy. I don't need you around me, because life is short and our circles need to stay small. We don't need snakes in it and people that are like, have that energy, because I feel like we absorb it, and if someone's secretly wanting me to fail, why would I be their friend? Why would we hang out? Why would I even support you? But I get it. There's fans out here. A lot of people, I have a lot of people that love me and Taylor both. And they're like, or love me and Christine both. And that's so cool. But if you're my friend, like training together, we're eating together, living together, you better be rooting for me or silent, either one. You don't even have to root for me, but be silent on it, because it fucks with you. And so anyways, when she said that, I was just like, man, that's fucked up. Like, I'm going to smash Pearl Gonzalez, which that's what I said, wasn't all Pearl's fault. There's a lot of people that were just pissing me off that they didn't think I could beat her. And Taylor being one. So after that, I just, outed it on Taylor. I don't have time for it. And I feel like slowly, people started seeing that, then she had that win and she was like, any of these bitches want this smoke. And I'm like, we're calling people bitches now, just stupid little petty stuff. But I would love that fight with her any day, and I try to get it. And they're like, well, no, not yet. And I'm like, but the fans want it. And they're like, yeah, but she still wants to be paid. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I don't care about being paid anymore. If you're going to call my name out, I just want to show that I can beat you and then move on in the world, and get paid somewhere else. Because sometimes for me, it can be annoying with the fandom things and, all these people that are like, basically they're like super fans for the wrong reasons. And they come in thinking that a fighter's going to do, something, and they're only looking at what they look like. They're not really looking who they face, who they fought, what's their background, what's their other fighting background, and kind of like compare the stats, like actual hard facts on who's going to win. But people all the time are like, oh, and it's not Taylor's fault. It really isn't. So I feel bad for it on that way. But her fans just piss me off sometimes, because they'll be like, Taylor's going to smash you. Taylor's going to kill you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, no way is that going to happen. So again, not her fault, but it builds and builds. And the Pearl thing was a personal thing. And then we've seen each other, in passing, and we don't speak to each other. And that is kind of sad. But at the same time, I have a lot of people that I could not waste, but give my energy to, and talking and giving hugs and being friendly to, that are people that believe in me 100%. and you only get, let this be something. You only get one chance, and it should be like that with everybody, because once someone lies to you, they're going to lie to you again. When someone cheats on you, they're going to cheat on you again. When someone doesn't believe in you, they don't deserve to get that second chance. And that's how I look at it at a friend point. If you don't believe in me, you don't get a second chance with me.
Well, since she was asked about a prediction for your fight, I might as well ask you a prediction for her fight. Does she get it done? Can she pull off the upset, or does Christine get it done and retain the title?
I mean, I love the fact that anything can happen in the sport, and I think that's what we love the sport. But I'm going to say, it's a goal for me to knock out Bec Rawlings because I want to be the first female to knock out somebody. And if I don't get it done June 24th, I think that the job is definitely going to be done on the 27th of August in New Mexico. I think I couldn't even imagine. You know what? Honestly, I don't think he goes out of the first round. So let that be the motivation. Like, I don't even think it passes the first round.
Is there a part of you that hopes that Taylor does win? Because if you knock Bec out and she beats Christine, it seems like you and Taylor for the title is like the biggest fight BKFC could make. You know what I mean? It would be a massive fight for the company. So you're not looking past Bec, obviously. It's a very tough fight next Friday, but if you beat her, I'm sure you're going to be looking at this Christine Faria, Taylor Starling fight, thinking that if Taylor wins, I mean, this is massive. You and Taylor for the title, that's big.
Yeah. You know what? I've thought of that. So, if Taylor watches this, let that be super motivation for you to go win this fight. That, same thing for me. You said I was going to lose Pearl's fight, and I went out there and busted ass just because you said I was going to lose. But so let that be motivation because, that would be, I think it would be way better. I would be jumping up. I would be like, yes, like shouting from the rooftops if that was the next title fight. I don't, yeah, definitely. But do I think this is going to happen? No. So I'm just being like a realist, but I would definitely much rather face Taylor in a fight against a belt than a trilogy match with Christine any day. So yeah, I've really thought about that. I'm like, I really should pull for Taylor to win. But I'm really like I said, if we were still really like good friends, 100%, you would hear me underdog, underdog, underdog. Everybody loves an underdog story, and that's great. But since we have, but then I think about it, I'm like, well, Christine personally wronged me too, right? So I hate Christine as well. So I really don't like either one of them. So now when it comes down to it, when you don't like either one, this is really what I'm saying on someone who's been in the game and watched a shitload of fights, someone who's seen both of them fight and, have been with both of them. I don't see Taylor walking away from that win.
Well, I just don't. Yeah, of course, to sort of set the table for that, if that were to happen, you got to do your thing. Although I feel like you and Taylor fighting, no matter what happens in these two fights, makes all the sense in the world. But June 24th, the rematch, you and Bec Rawlings, it's finally happening. What's the headline going to read? What's the message? What are we going to see on June 24th?
Yeah, June 24th, like I said, it is a rematch. I do feel like in my heart, I won the first time. So now, I get the redemption. I get to show everyone that two of the judges did get it wrong. So yeah, there's that. But it's also really just me. Like the biggest thing is going out there to prove everybody that I have power. Stop saying I don't have power. And that hopefully on the technique and the game plan is solid. I'm really just going out there and proving it to myself, that I belong in the sport and that I belong as the face and as one of the top original dogs, like really true bare knuckle fighters. And I really feel like going out there and beating Bec, not just barely beating her, but really beating her and making a statement is really going to solidify my name in the future of BKFC forever as really one of those that fought the best of the best and beat the best. So yeah, I'm coming out there with everything. I have everything to prove out there on the 24th. So know that, I've been working hard despite, going through medical emergency. I don't know if you can imagine how being like extra fatigued and going through extra like blood work and emotional trauma and still coming up every day and going to the gym and not missing, not making excuses, fighting through that. You know, on the 24th, I'm going to make sure that it's worth it for myself, and everyone's going to see that on the 24th for sure.
Amazing. One last quick thing, because the last time we spoke, you mentioned that you would have a lot of respect for your former opponent, Paige VanZant, if she just fought out the contract. No matter what happens, fight out your deal, and then you can move on to whatever you want. But at least you took this deal, you went through the whole thing. You'd have a lot of respect for her. And it looks like that's exactly what she's going to do. She was scheduled to fight in July. It looks like they pushed that London event back to August, and she's supposedly going to fight on that card. All signs are pointing to that. So she will indeed fight out the rest of her contract. Your thoughts on that? Or are you proud of her for going through this whole thing?
Yeah, I think that's really cool because she doesn't have to. You know, she's got this big deal with like AEW wrestling, and it looks like, you know, at the end of the day, people can talk so much shit, but it's about like her. Is she happy and doing it? And really why I'm proud of her in that aspect is, you know, it's just one less thing for get people to talk shit about you. You're not a quitter. You went out there and finished your contract. Even if you lose, you know, and go 0-3, hey, you're not a quitter, and you'll always have that. I think she wins though. I think that she, you know, she works hard, and whatever she does, it looks like she gives a lot to it. So hopefully over in England, you know, she gets an opponent and gets to walk away with her head held high. So yeah, I think it's good.
There you go. Britton, can't wait. You were a must-watch TV when you were inside the BKFC ring, and we're going to see this rematch between you and Bec Rawlings June 24th. Excited to see it. Always great catching up with you. Thank you for the time. I didn't realize we were talking for this long, but when we go, it just seems like it's 5 seconds, Britton. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you leading into the fight.
Thank you so much.